Okay, everybody. It's a beautiful today, except that I'm fucking stressed. And that's going to be the topic of today's episode since,
I guessed before we hit the record.
yeah,
Always the number of times you use the word stress. Hi, everyone.
yeah, you nailed it on the head, Nikolai. So, well, screw it. Let's just jump into it, shall we? Roll our sleeves up and let's get deep in this matrix.
Let's do this.
And of course, as usual, Nikolai has no idea what these questions will be, and usually they subtly involve my life in some fashion. But so let's presuppose that today, for example, like everyone is more stressed than ever, right? And aside the biological implications of that, whether there are any or not, I'd like your opinion on that in terms of, are we actually dying sooner? People are having heart attacks, type A, etc. What does the role of stress play specifically for the matrix? Like, what's the matrix getting out of it?
Well, Matrix, where I'll start, Matrix is not trying to get anything out of anything. It's just let's call it a practical, pragmatic system that is designed for carriers of consciousness, in this scenarios, us, to learn, to evolve. It's programmed to create situations and environment for us to grow as effectively, efficiently as possible. And by growth, we've chatted in many previous episodes, we've touched on this in the last episode quite a bit, is on the most fundamental, simple, rudimentary level, is just interaction between different energies. And to a lot of people, it won't make any sense, but let's convert it into our practical life. Learning two simple things. One, align with things we like doing and do more of those, and lean into things that are triggering us and choose to behave in that scenario peacefully or harmoniously, and constantly choose and choose and choose so that we know how to live through those events in a peaceful way. And just before we got on a call, the example you brought up is, like, if somebody's facing with some kind of a situation. Can I give you example of your situation?
Yeah. Well, let's use me as the template.
So you're navigating the let's call it growth and management of finance situation, and that's where your karma is.
Yeah.
And you just had let's call it a financial injection from outside into your life, and that didn't reduce stress.
Not
and you're like,
one
what the
iota.
fuck? Okay, there was more money, but I'm still stressed. And you're saying, oh, it's because I was given a fish, I didn't learn how to fish. And my comment was that's also an illusion. Even if you learned how to fish, there would still be, because it's an energy you learn how to interact with, it would still trigger you, and then your mind would come up with a different explanation. Oh, I only learned how to fish small to medium-sized fish. It's only when I learn to fish for a big fish that I will relax and be less stressed. Then you learn how to fish for a big fish, and then you'll be, that's not good enough because I'm only catching one fish at a time, and I'd like to actually have a whole fishing boat and a net and catch 7 big fishes at the same time. And that's
not gonna lie, that sounds fantastic, by the way.
Okay. But the thing is, I've been in that situation, and I worked with people in that situation. You get a fishing boat and you catch 7 fish every time you go out, then you're like, I'm still stressed, and I'm still anxious. What if the boat breaks? And it broke once already, and the net breaks, and the other day, instead of 7, I brought 5. You gotta have 2 boats because that's gonna be a backup. And that's ever-moving target. And in reality, the evolution you're going through is to find peace when you're facing this energy. And in this scenario, you're learning to interact with material energy. So in reality, you're developing a muscle, internal muscle, to be at a complete peace, no matter the external theatrics, the external theatrics that you're facing as it relates to your material state. Because it's all our internal reaction and perception. Like, even if the theatrics per se get better, you have 2 boats and you're catching now 14 fish a day, you're still stressed internally. And that brings me to the point of stress. In
Yeah.
reality, stress is a few things. One is misunderstanding of the situation, misreading of the situation, of what's actually unfolding. And hence, because we don't understand, we don't know how to act or behave, it creates unknown, and that freaks us out, and that creates stress. And side note here, yes, and it does destroy our bodies, and it does increase aging and affects our organs. Like, I had ulcers from stress because I didn't know how to interact with different situations in my life, and I chose to interact by self-destruction, because ultimately stress is just the way we describe a low vibrational energy that at the end of the day is anger. On fundamental level, it's anger, but it's directed at different things. And
Huh.
anger, think of anger as an energy of distraction. Anger can be an instrument, and is an instrument when used correctly. So there is such thing as righteous anger. When you use anger, or you don't even express the anger, but the energy that's underlying is the energy of anger, to remove something from life that has served you, that is not constructive to your life, and etc. For example, some relationship, they might be done, and you could get angry at the person, and by that you destroy the relationship, and in reality it needed to be removed from life. And that's a constructive way of using, well, that's not a very constructive way of using anger, but it's a constructive result of using anger. In reality, anger is just energy spinning specific way, and that way it spins is designed to destroy. And in a more practical way, I would describe anger as a chainsaw. And we can use chainsaw to cut down trees, build houses from the trees, or cut down bush so that we can start farming, and etc. It's a constructive way of using chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you take a chainsaw and start chopping people up, not a very constructive way of using it. When you take, but what's funny, yes, people get angry at others. That's destructive. That's not constructive.
Mm-hmm.
But the most destructive use of chainsaw is start cutting yourself. So, for example, when a person starts feeling shameful, guilty, jealous, and the list that goes on is just all flavors of anger with a different vector of where you're directing the chainsaw.
Mm.
So when you're angry at someone, you're directing the chainsaw at someone, so you're cutting them. At the end of the day, you're hurting yourself in the process as well. But when you're like feel shameful, like let's say you feel like, oh, I suck at this money growth, money management thing. So you've created, per se, in a modern day vocabulary, you've created stress for yourself. But in reality, no, you've actually take energy that is designed to destroy, which is basically energetic chainsaw, and
Mm-hmm.
you directed it at yourself. So
Mm.
you're further destroying yourself. Hence, you're not making the situation better or easier to navigate what you're facing. And if we go to the fundamentals of the situation, is really learning to manage that chainsaw. And what I mean by that is learning to pause yourself and understanding, okay, I'm in a challenging situation that I don't know, I don't fully comprehend, and I don't know how to navigate. And yes, it will take time to figure it out. But the biggest evolution is really learning to pause and not start with self-destruction or destruction of others. And that's ultimately learning to interact with the energy that you don't understand. That's one of the fundamental aspects. So the monetary situation is triggering you, rather than like starting the self-destruction and destruction of others. Let's say the business partner, oh, this guy is not delivering on the metrics or whatever, right? So you're just starting a chainsaw and starting to chop that person energetically. um, and you realize, okay, I know in my life, let's say in your situation, because it is a karmic energy, money or material energies is what you're learning to operate with. They will always trigger you. Either you have 2 boats and catching 7 fish each boat, or you don't even have a fishing rod and you're trying to catch fish with your hands. It doesn't matter what the theatrics are, it will always destabilize you. It's like completely doesn't matter. And that's, by the way, the trap that people get into, that everybody has their own energy, right? That they're learning how to interact with. And they get into this mindset, oh, only if I get this type of external situation, I will stop being triggered internally. That is completely not true. Because that energy, no matter in what size or form or shape it comes to your life, even if based on the societal standards, you should be at 100% peace. Let's say I wire you $100 million today. It will give you a peace for maybe a day, but then Matrix will create other situations around those $100 million that will stress the fuck out of you. Oh, how are this going to be taxed now? Because Nikolai just wired it to me without any documents. How do I preserve it? Okay, yeah, so I bought now a villa and a boat, but of course I want to invest it so that I don't have to ever work again, so it generates money for me. Oh, this just stresses me out so much. And like now I have to deal with these finance, wealth managers, accountants, tax people, and now I have to do cross-border. Oh, that stresses me. Like, so at the end of the day, you say, but it's not a survival stress. No, it will feel like survival. And the reason I'm sharing this with you, because I work with people who have that amount of money in the bank. They behave as if they're starving in Africa. And I kid you not. And I'm like, dude, have you checked your bank account? Yeah. And what's the number? Oh, that's the number. Doesn't seem like next 7th generation will have problem with food or accommodation or other issues. And they're like, yeah, but I'm so stressed because I haven't started my next business yet, and I've sold all my fishing boats and I don't have new fishing boats, and I'm spending money. So, okay, so just a second, even if you spend the money at the pace you're spending it right now, you still don't run out until end of your life based on average life expectancy. Yeah. but I don't have boats that are fishing. And so it's a loop. And at the end of the day, that's why like there is so much focus on the theatrics in the external world, whereas the focus should be on the inner state, on the inner feeling. What am I feeling? I'm feeling, as you're calling it, I'm feeling stressed. In reality, there is a more fine definition of the feeling. Could be, I don't know, could feel anxious, guilty, shameful, rushed, and the list goes on, right? The idea when you're facing a karmic energy, the energy you're learning to interact with harmoniously, is to learn to stop falling into the trap of feeling those things. Literally pull yourself by the ears and it's like, I understand that this type of energy will trigger me for many more years potentially. And by the way, up to you, could stop in a month. But it's like the way I would describe it is like, okay, I know I need to develop a muscle of stopping myself falling into all these negative feelings when I face this energy. And I can either go to the gym and learn it every day, like you go to the gym to train your body 3 times a week or something like that. Now you just got to go to emotional gym and do it like as systematically and pragmatically as you do with your physical body. And that is actually what stops this reaction, not the amount of wealth in your bank account or the assets you're holding or etc. It's all internal state, the perception shifts. And then, because there's no contraction, there's no negative energy, on top of that, matrix is like, well, it seems like this person figured things out. And you're sitting flat on your ass, and the matrix just starts throwing things at you without you doing a single action. And then you get even like, there is also a point of frustration there. And it's a good type of frustration, because in the past, you run around like a chicken without head trying to get all these resources. And now you do fuck all, and resources are being brought to you. And I'll give you an example. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, and then I'll comment.
I'll give you an example from a couple days ago. For me, I slightly different karmic energy. I didn't have karmic energy around material, but I had karmic energy around manipulating rules to my advantage, like contracts, tax law, bunch of other things. So I've learned the lesson. It like stressed me out, and like a lot. Like I've been sued, and the list goes on. And then I learned that how to interact with that energy. I just learned to be extra fair, not to manipulate everything. So like always, if I go into a situation and I see, wow, this person is missing this is going to be to my advantage, I'll highlight it. And I was like, listen, this is to your disadvantage. To make this fair, let's restructure this deal, because then it's going to be fair for you and me. And I leaned in multiple times, but it would like really stress me, or like what would, and because I was doing that, the stress I was living, I felt that somebody will always screw me over. Everything from government to a friend to a business partner to an employee to an etc. So it was an infinite amount of stress, because I felt like a cashier in Volley would screw me over in a grocery store. And like, it seems like I have a bunch of money. So even if I get screwed over for extra bottle of water, who cares? That fucking pissed me off and stressed the fuck. But like, that's unfair. How am I getting charged for 2 bottles if I'm buying? It's irrelevant in grand scheme of things, right? If you really analyze logically the situation. But the amount of emotion it would produce it was crazy. So where I'm going with this, so I process that, and the world flipped. So when you process that, when you learn to stay in peace, it becomes superpower, and the matrix actually start giving you gifts. It goes from tax to being gifts. So I'm hiking more and more. I'm going to the mountains more and more. I was like, got myself a watch for hiking, so I can have the maps, because a lot of trails I don't even know them. So I want to have like good good trails on the watch. So I got a watch, and I was like, because we don't live in EU, and the VAT is 25% in Croatia. I was leaving Croatia, and Amazon basically told me, you don't need to fill out any tax forms. As long as you get a stamp on an invoice, we will get you back your VAT. I was like, okay, cool. I come to the border, come to the customs. It's like, guys, here's the invoice printed from Amazon. They told me I don't need a form. Could you just stamp it that I exited EU? And the guy's like, no, you need a customs form. Like, brings me this folder, shows how like people fill out all these forms, but they come already with prepared forms. I was like, well, can you give me a form? No, it's like you had to do it in advance, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, previous version of me, I was like, wow, that is unfair, because I was told this, and I was like, and I would be like, I would make a scene, like I would make a scene at the border. I was like, it is what it is. I was like, okay, could I just drive back home, like cross into Montenegro, and then I'll come back a few days later, bring you the form, figure out what it is? It's like, no, once you cross, that's it. It's done deal, because you've exited, and you cannot bring the product back, blah, 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 the rules. And I was like, well, it is what it is. Then I'll go home. It's okay. I don't need the 200 euro or whatever I was supposed to get. He's like, whoa, 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 where are you going? It's like, oh, I'm just going to go. You told me like you need a form, and you cannot just stamp the invoice. So what am I doing here? Like, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste mine. It's like, no, And I was like, what do you mean no? Keeps my passport, keeps the invoice, and go sit in the car. First I was like, something's weird going on, but then I was like, well, it is what it is. So I come back in 10 minutes. I come back in 10 minutes. He's still typing something on a computer. He's like busy, very, very important, busy. And I was like, I'll just sit in the car. Finally, he comes out from his little booth and he's like smiling and he's pointing finger at me. You come over. And I was like, come over to him. And he's just like handing me the folded invoice with my passport. And I open it. It's stamped. He wrote something. It's like basically done. And I was like, wow, thank you very much. I thought you cannot do that, but like I really appreciate it. Thank you. And this is the example where before that would stress, like create a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. And like in the grand scheme of things, the 200 euro doesn't make or break my life, but it creates stress. And it's illogical because it's karmic energy, because I felt it was unfair. I was told follow this procedure and this procedure didn't work out. Let's say it didn't work out. And for the next week, I could be like literally sitting, creating self-destruction with stress, creating self-destruction with stress because it's my karmic energy. No matter how much I try to like, come on, it's just $200 or 200 euro, whatever. So, and in this scenario, because it's processed, I'm like at so much peace. I was like, it is what it is. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. Go sit in. And he stops me. He goes out of the way. Oh, and by the way, he calls somebody because when he tells me go sit in the car, first he starts dialing numbers, talking to people. I guess he's trying to figure out how to do it without the papers. And by then he figures it out. He has to log it in some system, apparently. Blah, like apparently it's a whole journey, and he does it. And this is an example when once you've learned to interact with karmic energy, it becomes your superpower. Like I didn't try to push him. I was like, it is what it is. And that happens to me now all the time. Like anywhere where there's some kind of like this type of energy, where there's like some kind of agreement or deal or some kind of transaction that needs to happen, like I don't push anyone. I was like, okay, it doesn't happen. People go out of their way to get things for me. And now, because I'm not stressed anymore, like he said no, like in the moment previously, if he said no, I would start boiling, right? Now it's like, yeah, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. So, and that's the recent example. And this applies to everyone. Stress comes from us not willing to learn to manage our feelings and emotions. And learning to manage our feelings and emotions is critical when we face karmic energies. And every soul that loaded in this body came here with at least 3 to 10 karmic energies. So there are different types of situations that are recurring. So for us to become masters of our lives, which the topic of previous episode, one of the key skills is managing our reactions, because there are like 3 to 10 major lessons that we're learning here. And if we don't learn to pause ourselves and not go deep into this destructive state, oh, I'm shit, I'm like, I don't know how to do this, it pisses me off, the life is bad, blah, blah, blah. If we don't learn to stop from sliding and understanding we're just learning and like constantly pulling ourselves out, explaining to our scared mind, oh, like because the mind is like, oh, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world. No, it's not the end of the world. You know, we've somehow made it to, I'm 40 now, I've somehow made it to 40 and I faced many of those. The only thing I've done when I reacted that way is destroy a bunch of things in my body. And I've given the example with ulcers, and there were other issues that I had that were like panic attacks, and the list goes on, right? So, and that is the critical skill of learning to manage feelings and emotions and the mind and the thoughts right before we slide down the slide into a pit of shit.
So is that attitude then the de facto attitude that you're supposed to take across whatever karmic energy? Just well, it is what it is.
Exactly. So that's the first step. Because when you learn that first step of not sliding down into a pit of shit that is difficult then to get out of, then number one, you've preserved energy. So you haven't wasted energy on that, because that chainsaw that runs on your energy. where you direct it screaming at other people or screaming at yourself, you're using energy. So number one, you've prevented spending energy, so you have more energy left in your battery. And the second thing, you haven't destroyed either somebody outside or you haven't destroyed yourself. And destroying yourself, that's like double taxing yourself. Not only you're running chainsaw on your own energy, you're destroying yourself, which produces the energy to run the chainsaw. So stopping gives you an ability then to actually do something constructive of how you go about interacting with this energy. So, and that applies to any type of energy. And that's the first step. And people who've learned that first step, then the evolution is accelerated drastically because they don't slide down into this low states that take time to recover. So to give you an example, like when I was experiencing panic attacks, once panic attacks happens, a lot of cortisol and a lot of adrenaline in a system. Takes 2 to 3 days to clear out. For 2-3 days, the body is physically hurting because it's trying to clear the cortisol and adrenaline. So I learned not to resist the loss of control that or a state of death that the panic attack creates, so that I don't give it more energy, so it passes fast, so less cortisol and less adrenaline is released. And the second thing I learned, because I knew I needed to clear cortisol and adrenaline, one way of clearing it is doing high intensity workout, because that's what burns cortisol and adrenaline. And then because it's like a more simple explanation, if you're walking through a jungle and you run into a lion or a bear, depending where the jungle is, right? And you just did not react, you didn't move, all this cortisol adrenaline released, but it was released for you to run away to save your life. So it feels like, oh, this body is dumb. It has all this fuel that we produce for saving, but it did not use it. And now to clear it takes a long time. So basically, I minimized the amount of cortisol and adrenaline. And even though, because it's a panic attack, some of it still gets released, then I knew how to clean up. And so when I started methodically using that procedure, the impact of panic attacks on my life started minimizing drastically and quite rapidly. And this is the same stuff, just not as extreme, because emotions and feelings that takes us down, like negative feelings and emotions, take us to downward spiral, just take all of our energy, so we exhaust it, and then we feel negative about everything, and from that place we cannot do anything. So it's just a softer version of that.
So if we look at that way of managing the emotions, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, well, it just is what it is. Where does stress then have any benefit? And the reason I say that, and maybe it doesn't, maybe that's an illusion and that's all fallacy, which I'd be curious to hear your opinion on. Because there's moments where, let's just say, metaphorically speaking, Rome is burning and you've been stagnant or you haven't done something for whatever reason. And suddenly it's like you're like that meme where the dog is sitting in the fire saying, "This is fine," right? Until finally the fire actually burns your skin and now you're like, "Okay, now I'm in action." And so could we not argue at some point that the stress is taking us to a level of action or taking us to another level? Or is that all pie in the sky thinking? And if we just said, it is what it is, that somehow that Palaco kind of attitude is what actually is going to take us in the right direction. And I know my very Western brain struggles to even conceptualize that this could be possible, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, so there's a matrix has like our lives fractally has two types of instruments, carrot and stick. So stick is just stress, and it is also an instrument. So it can be constructive and valuable. The main challenge is people misunderstand especially in a situation when a stick is used, what the lesson is, what they're supposed to do. Because the stick usually produces like confusion, low energy, stress, blah, 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 right? So here we're sitting and talking about this in this scenario. Let's say Matrix created a bunch of events that are not pleasant and you're experiencing it as stick and you're experiencing the stress.
Mm-hmm.
Your reaction is to run. Well, let's say you gotta identify which direction to run in. So you can run deeper into the fire or you can run out of fire. And in most scenarios, people choose, because of misunderstanding the fundamentals of the events, what they're supposed to learn, they actually run deeper into a fire. So with the scenario of material management and material wealth creation, the intuition could be do more actions, and that's most of the Western world.
Mm-hmm.
Like go fishing instead of once a day, go 8 hours a day till you learn to catch medium fish, till you buy better fishing rod, till you buy a boat, and etc. But at the end of the day, person spends 30 years, and now they have 2 boats catching 7 each, big 7 fish each, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the stress is still there. So, and now their body's starting to fall apart. They have ulcers. They might have initial stages of cancer, and the list goes on. Did they run away from the fire or they went deeper into the fire? Whereas in reality, what they were supposed to learn, okay, this stresses me. How do I work on my inner world to adjust my reaction so it doesn't stress me? And once I've learned so this doesn't stress me, I go and create whatever I want to create. I want to, maybe I realize I'm not even a fisherman. I'm supposed to, I don't know, cut out wooden toys out of, I don't know, eucalyptus trees. So, and that's where the reaction is to run headless without direction, without pausing and asking, what is actually the direction? What am I supposed to learn here? Where am I supposed to run? So, stress motivates for running. The key thing is identifying here, okay, where am I running? Oh, I gotta, same as you go to the gym, I gotta
Mm-hmm.
go into emotional gym to learn to pause myself, to have peaceful reaction to any kind of external events. Because that is the first step to then figure out next constructive steps, how to interact with that energy.
So in the case of, for example, taking that attitude, well, it is what it is, right?
I would paraphrase it a little bit. I would take
Okay.
it further.
Okay.
It is what it is, but I was like, what I reminded myself, and a lot of people use that, let's call it a trick to calm down their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Once we start understanding, okay, we're here to learn things, we're in big evolutionary school, and you can kind of reflect to create more faith around that. You can go back in your life and remember those moments when you've learned something, how like the stress disappeared and the events stopped showing up in your life, and everybody has experienced that. So the whole idea is to remind ourselves we're in evolutionary school. That's just a quest. And you're facing the part of the quest that you haven't understood yet, and you need to figure it out. And that's it. And you're just figuring things out. And is it easier to figure out from a shitty emotional state or from balanced, peaceful emotional state? And do you want to go through the soap opera, internal soap opera of dipping into low emotional state, then spending days pulling yourself out? And then you still have to go about it constructively, right? Or you skip this whole part. You like learn to accept, okay, I'm getting stressed right now. I'm getting angry. I'm getting whatever. And we've discussed many tactical things that can be done to stop that. And actually, I'll share it for listeners / viewers here. What in reality is happening when we're starting to slide down into low vibrational states, our system starts producing a lot of electrons. And that's basically what low vibrational state is. There are many ways to drop rapidly the electrons that we're producing. One is high intensity workout. Our muscles run on electrons. That's why there is a bit of electricity going through our body. So any kind of jumping jacks, I don't know, push-ups, whatever you like, jogging in a spot, whatever you want to do, that burns rapidly. So that start calming you down. So there is more choice. You create from yourself ability to choose what next, versus when you produce a lot of electrons, they just take over, and you start running like headless chicken, versus you consciously choose to run in a spot, consciously knowing you're burning it off, so it doesn't control you and doesn't put your head on the side, so you're headless chicken and you start running directionless. Then there is hot showers. Hot shower clears a lot of electrons. Then there are people who are professionals at taking electrons, and Mitch is one of them, but you're learning to manage your own, and that's one of the reasons it's an important skill. Like Matrix is pushing you to learn this, because big part of your coaching practice will be taking electrons of others. So like a person getting on a call with you will automatically calm down, because your energy of unconditional love, one of the core capabilities of that energy is just removing electrons from another person. They start feeling light again. Like, I don't have unconditional love, but I've learned to work with electrons, so I can take a lot of electrons from other people, so they start feeling better in the moment, right? So that's an example why people will go to therapists, or I don't know, healers, coaches, and etc. The good ones know how to remove them, but there are so many ways of doing it yourself. So I already given 2: shower, exercise, high intensity exercise in the moment. Another one, if you live by the sea, go swim in the sea, has been now scientifically many times proven that salt is a great storage of electricity. That's why they're starting to make finally salt-based batteries, and that's the new breakthroughs that are coming out. So where I'm going with this, if you don't have sea, as simple as, and this is gonna sound crazy, but hey, try and see what happens. You put you put bunch of salt in a bag, I don't know, in a plastic bag from a grocery store, and you stand in that salt for 5 to 10 minutes and see what happens to your state. It pulls all those electrons out of your body. Another option is we have energetic centers on our hands here, on our palms. If we take a metal piece of metal that is grounded, goes into the ground, that will release electrons through those energetic centers. And to help that, you can visualize the flow of that, let's call it negative charged energy, through the palms into the ground. So those are a few examples, and they're super accessible. And it doesn't matter where you are in life. You can be in a very important meeting. You can excuse yourself to go to the washroom, and you can do jumping jacks in the washroom. Like, then there is like all the breath work techniques and etc. that can help you modulate some of this. But I'm not going into that, because there's the ones that I'm sharing that are, I'd say they're a higher and faster impact. The key thing is to creating discipline to do them. That's what most people don't do.
Yeah, I was working on the grounding today on my walk to the gym, actually.
Nice.
So I'm sure.
And how did you do that?
I just grabbed a pole on the way. That it was going into concrete, but I mean, concrete's ground, I think. I don't know. Or does it need to be grass specifically?
Should work, because high chance it's like goes deeper.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it was doing. I mean, it was just a short thing because we were on the walk, right?
Yeah.
And again, there's always that aspect. I think when you're doing some of these things, or at least for me, that I know I need to do them in the moment, and then I feel like because I'm around other people, I don't have the opportunity because, I'm interfering with their day to sort of take care of myself or what I need.
Yeah. So what I had to learn is to prioritize my state, because if my state is crap, then I cannot contribute to, first of all, myself and others, and I'm ruining the state of others. And I've learned to speak it out loud. Hey, right now I'm angry. Right now I feel shame. Right now I feel like, just out loud. It could be a simple, right now I don't feel well. It is not because of you, because most people, especially close ones, they think, they start taking on responsibility that they did something wrong. It is my thing that I'm dealing with. So that's like, I'm not feeling well. It's my responsibility to take care of that. I need few minutes right now. And once I started doing it, including I started doing it on business calls where there could be 8 people and we could be 20 minutes into 1 hour call, and I'd be like, guys, I feel triggered right now and I need to deal with this. You can continue without me. And some calls are about me being there. We end the call here. And first people were like, what's going on with this guy? It's like, and then they understood it was substantially more constructive than proceeding with some of those calls. And like, I was like, we can end this and we can continue once I've dealt with what's happening within me. Because since, let's say, if that call is about me being there, they're looking for my decision, they're looking for my feedback. I cannot provide clarity nor high quality decision if I'm not balanced. So
Yeah, if
what's
you're
the
not.
point of continuing it? So that was the hardest for me to learn, to end something. Oh, but people planned, they got on the call and blah, 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 right? Like being okay to be like, this is not going to be constructive. I'm not in a constructive state. I need some space to navigate my internal state, and I will message all of you when we reschedule this. So that is a critical skill existing in society, to communicate. Because if you just withdraw, then people get triggered even more, they start complaining. But if you clearly communicate, I need time for myself, that's it. And what I've noticed as I've started doing it in different contexts,
Mm-hmm.
people were like, started giving me feedback. They were like, wow, I'm so blown away that you can do that and you can clearly communicate what your needs are. And then you bring a balanced, harmonious version of yourself to whatever interactions you come into. And when you're not in that state, you constructively communicate to withdraw yourself from that interaction so that you can come back in a better state. People started noticing how those interactions, our joint interactions or relationships, started improving because I started choosing to bring a constructive, harmonious, balanced version of myself in those interactions. And they started appreciating that a lot.
So you've piqued my curiosity here. Um, so can you give me more of a specific example if you were actually, because I can understand how you could do it on a call, or you
Yeah.
could do it in some scenario where you're not right beside somebody. But let's
No,
just
I
say,
do it like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, let's just say you're maybe you're on a trip with your significant other, or you're out somewhere with someone,
Yeah.
and it's not really feasible to completely disconnect from them. What do you do then, or how do
No,
you
it is very
massage it?
feasible. It's an illusion that you cannot disconnect. I'll give you an example. We could be in a hotel room with let's say my partner, and that happened with my ex partners. By now, I've learned to manage my emotional field really well. So it's an experience from the past. No, actually, still happens sometimes on the calls, or still happened earlier in this relationship where she was visiting, and I started going into energetically overwhelming state. And we're sitting on the same couch in the same living room. She came to visit me. She flew here, and et cetera, right? And my communication was, hey, I'm taking on a lot of specific type of energy that I'm learning to deal with, and right now feel overwhelmed. I will need some space, and it's not about you. It is my evolutionary experience and my learning, and that's it. Or like, to give you other examples, you could be out in a restaurant, happen as well, with friends, or with, like, let's say I brought out team to other countries to have like offsites and etc. And I'd be like, hey guys, I need a minute. Or like, if attention is on me, I'll just tell them, hey, I need a minute. I'll go for a walk, or I'll go to a toilet, and I'll do whatever is necessary to rebalance myself. So there's no issue there. And with friends, it's even easier. I'm like, I'm going to toilet, and I can spend as much time as I want there, because sometimes I'm not even stressed. I go to toilet and I decide to swipe through Instagram for 20 minutes. And it's like, they get upset. That's their issue. That's my toilet session, you know? So
Mhm.
to them, I don't even need to say, hey guys, I'm going to use the washroom. Like, I don't even say, they understand. I get up and I go use the washroom.
Yeah.
But like, I don't need to explain, is either I'm having a digestive issue or I'm swiping through Instagram, or I'm actually doing emotional work on myself.
Got it. So you'll find instances, so you could find a way to extract a few minutes or something to be able to deal with
Exactly.
it, like because I'm even thinking scenarios like maybe you're on a walk with somebody. Do you just cut the walk and you go somewhere to go deal with your stuff and then
Exactly.
come back?
Yeah. It's like, hey, do you mind hanging out here for a minute? I got to step best to communicate honestly.
Yeah.
So I learned to communicate honestly. Hey, I'm just dealing with some like uneasy internal state that is starting to overwhelm me. I just need a bit of a space. And like, could you hang out here, or could you continue and I'll catch up? Or could we meet there? So you go there, grab a coffee, wherever the destination is, start a workout or start hanging out at the beach or whatever, and I'll catch up to you. So, and the key thing there to always, what I've learned, because almost everybody reacts and they think they did something, to clearly communicate, it is not you, it is my thing that I'm dealing with, and I really need to deal with this right now, because otherwise, I don't know, I could get strongly, like, very triggered, or like I will be tired after that. And I want to be present. I want to be present, and I want to be present in this interaction.
Got it. Okay.
And it's just the key thing with those things is doing them. And
Yeah.
I, in the beginning, when I was practicing that, for example, it was very hard for me to do that on a call with multiple people. That was the hardest for me, because a bunch of people gathered across multiple time zones. And then I observed multiple times how those meetings went downhill very rapidly. And I would start screaming at somebody because I was already unbalanced. And I would like spit out my aggression and anger on somebody else. And I was like, wow, I knew I should have stopped it like 15 minutes in. But I was like, I felt bad. I felt guilty because all these people like align their schedules, blah, blah, blah. And once I've saw it a few times, I was like, it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it feels. I know the right thing is to create space for myself to deal what's happening within me and be comfortable with it. And then I started communicating that to, if somebody's close, like let's say, I'm in a relationship with someone, I was like, I would be very upfront. I was like, hey, there are moments where sometimes I would lock myself in a room and like I will just be in that room. And that is because I'm dealing with something. It is not about you. I'm working on myself. And I need those moments for me to make leaps in my evolution and my growth and etc. So I'd become very proactive in explaining that some behaviors that might seem weird, in reality, they're very constructive. First of all, for myself, and as a result, they're constructive for interaction with that person.
Yeah, like for example, uh, and wow, we may get into this question, we may not, but um, recently I've been playing around a lot more with Hawkins' letting go technique and trying to figure that out in a better way, and I feel like I'm getting some progress. But it does seem like something I can't do unless I'm alone. Like I've tried to do it like I'm walking with somebody and something will
100%.
go on and I'm trying to let go and I'm like, there's too much going on. It's like I'm walking, they're here. I can't zero in. And
in the beginning, it's very difficult to do what you're describing and what I'm describing when you're around somebody else. That's why I choose to withdraw myself.
yeah, because I was trying to do it simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll be here and I'll just get this going. And
Very
and
difficult.
they see where I'm kind of zoned out, right? And
Yeah.
they're like,
and then
okay.
it creates even more anxiety. They see that you're zoned out, not present. Then they start asking, "Are you okay? Is everything?" And you want to burst out and just like, "I'm not okay.
I'm
like,
working here.
Exactly.
Working.
Exactly.
Ah, okay.
So and then, by the way, once you develop ability to do it on your own, then like, for example, as I've developed that ability, I could continue that walk. I could discover the root cause of a trigger in like, I don't know, when I was 5 years old, to go regress to that age, talk to my inner child, do the whole healing while being fully present. But it doesn't start like I didn't start there. I
Yeah.
started with not being able to hold a conversation because I was so internally unbalanced. So I had to pull myself out of that conversation, calm myself down using different methods, bring myself back into conversation, pin that to process that when I get back home. So, but then as it's a step at a time. In the beginning, you do that. Then the next step, you calm yourself down while the person around. Then the next step, you can diagnose it while you're continuing and being engaged in an interaction. The next step, you learn to heal without even people knowing that you're actually deeply rewiring yourself psychologically, emotionally, and etc. while you're still engaging in a dinner or a walk or a conversation. And like, but it's all like you gotta build one, like the way you build, like you build one layer on top of the other layer. You cannot skip those layers. And the first layer is not slide down into low vibrational state to learn to stop. Like you start sliding and you choose like, nope, I pull myself out. And you got to find your own method. Like, like, okay, I've shared some methods how to drop electrons, the internal talk that you got to have. Everybody has slightly different method because everybody's wired differently, right? But there are many methods, and that's why you try many, and then, wow, this works for me. Okay, I'm going to start doing it. And then once you've nailed that, it becomes automatic. Then you start realizing, wow, I don't need to do this anymore. I can just pull myself out. I can choose not to slide down. And then you're like, wow, what else can I do? Oh, I can diagnose myself because I didn't slide down while I'm continuing this conversation. But it's a process, and it's like, it's really comparable going to the gym. You cannot have like big muscles just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like it's step by step you're building this. It's a process. With that said, where we're going as the world is people misunderstand also building muscles. It is through working out. One way or another way, and that has been proven, is energetics. You can like literally visualize it and apply some stress to the muscles. It doesn't have to be real weight. You can imagine that you're lifting something and the muscles will grow. So there's just, this is, let's call it more advanced techniques, but there are that's another trap. Like I could be sharing some techniques with you, but let's say I've like became advanced at managing my energy, and you'll try to use it and you're like, that doesn't work. So for example, holding a metal rod that goes into the ground and sending electrons there, to you it might be, or to someone might be, sounds like woo-woo crap, right? So there's no faith, and that's going to block the flow. Whereas doing push-ups or jumping jacks, you do them and then you reflect how it feels. So it's much easier to do some, like, to use that type of instrument without having faith in all these like energy, metaphysics, esoterics, and etc. So that's why it's also important choosing the instrument that's right for you, that you're like, okay, that resonates with me. But like, because like people gave me so many different instruments to learn to manage emotions, feelings, thoughts, and etc. I was like, that's such a sound. And like I came from a very like non-spiritual place. I'm like, wow, those guys are whack. Whatever they're suggesting, that sounds just like they're crazy. And if I chose that method, no shit is not going to work for me, because in the first place, I don't believe in it.
Yeah, makes sense. So going back onto that sort of non-spiritual spiritual journey, my last question is, do you think diet and lifestyle play a role in stress, or are they not factors? Like from your time when you were owning the medical company, right? Like what did you see from the medical establishment when you were there that differs fundamentally from the spiritual realm that you're in now?
Medical establishment completely does not understand the fundamentals of what causes what, or root, what is it called? Cause effect fundamentals. They completely research, misunderstand most of them. And as a result, they offer mostly incorrect solutions or offer solutions for symptoms. So that is just a broad statement. Whereas, and I'll come back to an important part about lifestyle. So For me, healthy lifestyle was critical when I was in a crappy state, in a stressful state. Because think of it this way, like I was hitting myself with this emotional, energetic chainsaw every second. So no shit, I had to eat healthy, sleep well, do anything I could so that I could heal from damaging myself every second. Once you stop damaging yourself and allow this body just to naturally, organically exist and operate through intuition, where you eat intuitively, exercise intuitively, you either spend a day on a couch or you go for a walk, you do those things intuitively. And I had a lot of leftover programs. I was like, why am I sitting on a couch? It's a beautiful weather. I should be swimming in an Adriatic Sea. But it's a program. My body right now, in the moment, could be the best thing to sit on the couch. So it took me actually a long time to clear out all these programs I installed from healthy lifestyle. Yes, the healthy lifestyle is important when the person is in a crappy emotional, psychological state. But once that's addressed, the healthy lifestyle does not matter. This body can do anything. This body is so much more powerful than anybody than we realize. But because most of us spend years destroying, and every second we spend living this life, we're focused on destroying it. No shit, it doesn't perform well. So, but once we allow it to be, we're like, wow, I don't need to sleep and I perform. Wow, I can eat anything and perform. Wow, I can drink bunch of poison in the form of alcohol and I don't hangover and it's perfectly fine. So it's like, because I don't damage it on second by second basis with my thoughts and emotions. I don't put a chainsaw to it, because it's like you're just living in this great state. And like, do I have a healthy diet right now? According to a healthy diet in, like, I don't know, in a Western country, my diet is not very healthy because I eat whatever I want, whenever I want. Like, oh, don't eat after 6 o'clock. I eat whenever. I eat at midnight. I feel like eating right now, I'll eat, because I live intuitive lifestyle. And actually it's as I've cleared the noise in my mind, I started doing things even more in alignment. And some energies like alcohol that is poison to this body, I use it as an instrument because I consume it intuitively. I know when to consume it and I know what I consume it for. So I actually derive substantial benefit from using the poison rather than purely poisoning my body. If I would just dumbly drinking it, then yeah, okay, I'm just pouring like poison into my body. But alcohol, one of the effects of alcohol is accelerating the flow of energy and relaxing physical muscles. So when I need to rapidly expand the amount of energy that passes through my body, I can drink alcohol. The physical body relaxes, the energy starts moving fast, and the channels expand fast. So, and now, yes, do I pay a price of my physical body taking out the poison out of the system? I do, but then I know the benefit I'm getting, so I choose a transaction with ROI, with return on investment, rather than purely pouring alcohol into myself. So where I'm going with this is, as we learn not to destroy ourselves with our thoughts and feelings, you can live any lifestyle you desire, and the body will be perfectly healthy and perfectly fine. Like, I haven't seen a doctor, haven't been to a healthcare system in years. I don't even remember when last time I've seen them. Did I had challenges with my body? I did. But I understood where they're coming from and what is happening with my body. So I knew how to self-regulate them. And that's another beauty. As we stop overreacting, we become more in tune with ourselves. So like because what happens in many scenarios, somebody has stomachache. I have stomachache. I need to take a pill. I need to go to a doctor. Once again, same reaction takes you in low vibration, like incorrect reaction. But if you're like, it's okay, I have a stomach pain, and that is what I'm experiencing. That is an experiencing I'm living right now. And from that state of not overreacting, it is actually easier for intuition to kick in. I was like, well, it seems like the stomach ache will pass in the next couple hours and in the next couple days. Okay. Then you're at peace because you've connected to your intuition. Or it could be the opposite. Wow, there seems like something serious. I should seek external help. And by the way, I'm not against medical or healthcare establishment, because those are great instruments as well, right? Even though like we can compare them to poison, same as alcohol, but alcohol is an instrument. Medical establishment is an instrument. It just needs to be used harmoniously at the right time for the right thing. So you could be like, oh, the stomach pain doesn't seem like it's going in. Okay, probably need external involvement and seek expertise, and you go seek expertise. So, but it's we like, if I would summarize it today, we keep talking about the same skill, is preventing from sliding down into low vibrational state or negative emotional psychological state, where like thoughts are looping, emotions are overwhelming, and etc. And using whatever method as it starts happening to pull yourself out. And like basically all insane internally, I choose not to react that way. I choose to react from a place of peace and balance. And it's like learning to keep making that choice. And yes, in the beginning, that choice is leaning towards, I want to scream, I want to be down on myself and whatever. But I'm like, no, I choose to, okay, what can I do? Okay, I can do jumping jacks. Okay, I do jumping jacks. Okay, I came down a little bit. What? Anything else I can do? Okay, I'll go take a hot shower. Okay, it seems like calming down. Okay, let's look at this again.
Let's take a look at the scenario one last time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel inspired to take on some stress now. So
great. And yeah, the key thing is to remembering the meta learning, because people get consumed by the details of theatrics, like the number on the bank account, is my Amazon invoice getting stamped or not, and what the name of the Croatian customs officer, and maybe I don't like him for whatever reason, and the way his like face looks, right? They zoom in into the details of theatrics, versus the meta is, no, you're just learning to keep yourself balanced no matter what you face in this life. That's the skill, not like what the custom agents is wearing and the numbers, the digits on the banking app that you open. All that is just theatrics. It's just decoration.
But those theatrics get you going, don't they?
Yeah, they're good. Professionally produced, Oscar-nominated movie that we call Life on Planet Earth.
Aye. All right. Well, thank you very much, Nikolai. I'm looking forward to next week as we continue to unpack this matrix. It seems like the matrix never ends, and I'm betting it never does.
Well, it never ends. One is transitioning to another version of matrix, and there's always matrix, because it's just the system of how things operate. And that's it. And we either learn how to operate with the system constructively, or we keep fighting it. And the best is, of course, to learn how to operate with it. It's like, to simplify it, we've learned there is gravity. Now we don't try to walk out from a fifth story balcony. We take elevator. We've learned, right? That's how the system works, that aspect of the system. So now we're just talking about the emotional aspect of the system and living in the social part of the matrix, which has been drastically overviewed as part of the shared knowledge in our upbringing and our schooling and educational system. So no shit, we're confused, because a huge part of that knowledge was missing throughout our life. So how can we blame ourselves? We can't. And finally, that knowledge is becoming more. Previously, that knowledge, a lot of it was accessible in and still accessible in a lot of like deep, sacred, spiritual texts, but it's hard to interpret it. It's hard to understand it, hard to bring it into our day-to-day practical life. Our conversation is bringing this. Like, I could have given you, when you asked that question, I could have given you a quote from Bible or from some Buddhist text, and you'd be like, oh, that sounds so great, but and so what? You can't fix the strong emotion you're dealing with a quote, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's all about making all this practical, reliving this. Like the knowledge has existed, it kind of got a little bit distorted, a little bit fractured, a little bit hidden, but it's all now coming back and it's becoming more accessible, more practical. So we're recuperating what we have missed. Like in our first, let's call it, in our scenario, we're older. Some kids that are loaded in, they already intuitively in tune how to deal with this. We're learning a little bit late in the game, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Well, I will see you next week. Same time.
Indeed.
Same matrix.
Till next week.